Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Colombo, specifically with its legendary upgrade, the new mod that's available in 13.7 here in the Research Bureau with 19,000 research points, something like that, as always. And with this upgrade, you're getting 6% better dispersion and 6% better reload going in the 6th upgrade slot. Nice little salvo there into the Marseille. And that's going to be competing with Reload Mod, which is 12% reload, but no dispersion upgrade there. And you have a penalty to turret traverse when you take Reload Mod. That's a key benefit here as well. We don't have to deal with that. So our turrets are pretty quick here on Colombo. And of course, range mod. And maybe that's the bigger deal here with games being rather passive. So getting the extra range can be nice on a Colombo. My goodness, what a start though. SAP can Citadel cruisers, guys. They just got to be very light cruisers. If you're like me and you're a little bit frustrated with light cruisers only taking overpens from your battleship, just play a Colombo and shoot SAP. It will not overpen. Now we got to talk a little bit here about what legendary upgrades really should be, I guess. Recently, it seems like Wargaming has taken to adding legendary mods as a buff to the ship. In the past, they said they wanted these things to be more of a separate, different playstyle that is not better or worse necessarily than more of the standard upgrades. But we've had things recently like the Guden upgrade, which gives it even more airstrike potential, not even only the ability to charge another airstrike, but charge them faster. It's kind of insane. That one in particular is incredibly frustrating to fight against. And the reason I bring that up is that SAP is a pretty frustrating ammo to fight against, is it not? I find that an ammo type that you can't really angle to, that does full pen levels of AP damage, that doesn't overpen, is a little bit strong, especially when you give it this better dispersion. And I think this is going to be a mandatory upgrade on Colombo going forward, and I don't think that was necessarily the intent behind the original legendary upgrades. Looking at things like the Yamato legendary upgrade, it is just shocking the difference here. Not only are we getting the dispersion buffed here like Yamato, but we're also getting the reload buffed at the same time, and we don't have to deal with the penalty to turret traverse again. Poor Yamato. That ship, of course, does have overmatch. Here we go, rear turrets only, that's 18k. Kind of ridiculous, right? Sure, he's not angled perfectly, but let's see what the front turrets do. Another 14. That's a lot, guys. That's just a lot. And sure, maybe pushing around the corner not angled was a bit of a mistake, but that level of punish from SAP, maybe with AP, like AP Citadels, right? Sure, I'm all game for that. But the reason that I'm so hesitant about SAP here is that you do not overpen. If these miss the Citadel, they actually want to miss the Citadel because they won't pen the Citadel on a Marseille. It just seems like an ammo type that is too easy to use, and with very little downside do you get the massive damage of armor piercing. HE, of course, has much lower alpha damage and much lower pen than armor piercing does. Also, generally is going to shatter a lot of the time. Sure, you get fires though with it. AP, high risk, high reward, but likely to overpen unless you hit the perfect part of a ship. Here, just missed the aim, that just a little too far ahead on the Austin. Oh no, here's the sub after us trying to kill us. So we drop the ASWs and then we accelerate and turn away, hoping to avoid these torpedoes. There's also a Holland down here with us, so hopefully we don't get cross-torped. Those depth charges should take them out. There we go. And we have something called Sansonetti as our commander. Special commander for the Italians. Whenever you get your first kill in a game, you get a range buff, which is very, very nice for Colombo. So if you're wanting to run this legendary upgrade, probably run Sansonetti as well. He's in a collection, I believe, where you have to get some Italian containers, and that will complete the collection for Sansonetti. Very good commander for this battleship line, for all of the Italian ships, actually. So I think this is a very, 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 very good upgrade, and I am going to have a lot of fun playing it, right? I think that's a bit of an issue, though, is it's fun to play this, but to play against it, I'm very worried about playing against all these Colombos that I'm inevitably going to run into. Didn't see many today, but today was just the patch day. So I'm assuming that we're going to get a bunch more in the weeks to come since it is so insane. It's another like 10k plus onto that Austin there. The reason that Colombo wasn't so bad to deal with is that it had such poor dispersion at range. When you got to close range with a Colombo, sure, you were going to take massive hits from the SAP. That's kind of the deal with Colombo. It had the smoke to get in, it had the turret angles, I guess, to fire all of its guns at like 22 degrees. A lot of benefits for brawling with this ship, but at long range it really couldn't do much. Back in the day when it was released though, we had something called Deadeye. And this feels a lot like Deadeye is back, except it's not conditional on you being outside where no one is within your spotting range, was the idea here. If you were far enough back, the way Deadeye worked, if you're far enough in the back and no enemy ships were spotted inside your detection circle, you got a buff to your accuracy. It was almost like the cruiser skill where you get reload buff by people being within your detection circle. It was the opposite of that. And myself and a lot of people said, hey, why don't you just reverse it where battleships get a dispersion buff when they're aggressive, when they push in. And that's why Deadeye was such a passive meta, and actually was probably the catalyst, I guess, to push the passive meta along as extreme as it is now. It's probably gotten worse, certainly, but that was definitely a massive bump in the road as far as the game being so passive goes. But Colombo has plenty of tools to push in, as I've mentioned. This smoke here, able to get so far into the middle of the map that I think the Brisbane knew I was here, but we just were pressuring him so much that he had to try and get away. Notice the Preussen on the 10 line there. Kind of getting a crossfire set up here. And hopefully we don't eat torps, but the rest of the game that was pretty bad there. But I did manage to get away without eating torpedoes, which was kind of nice. Annapolis here at 14 kilometers, so a decent range away, and I'm using the armor piercing. A really nice feature about Colombo is that it swaps its shells incredibly quickly. So if you're on the reload and you realize you want to go to the AP or back to the SAP, you can do that and not have a penalty at 8 seconds, 9 seconds, something like that. It's kind of nice on a ship like this where we do want to use the armor piercing. There's good reasons to use AP on the Colombo. In fact, I'm going to decide to smoke here. Not only can this smoke get you into trouble, it can get you out of trouble. I used it aggressively in that short little clip. Here, we're going to use it defensively. I've overpushed here, quite obviously, and there's a destroyer on our flank. I think it's a Holland, as well as Annapolis, St. Vincent, Bourgogne coming back here. I'm a little worried, so we can use that smoke to get away, which is really, really nice. But traditionally, that would result in a bad game for the Colombo. Not so. If we're going to be passive, if we're going to play the back of the map here, which I am going to do, unfortunately, we're going to get a lot of damage still out of this ship because that 6% accuracy accounts for so much. You should really play this thing with this legendary upgrade if you enjoy Colombo at all, or if the reason you didn't enjoy Colombo was its dispersion. Look at how many shells we're about to land on this Bourgogne here at 17 kilometers. That's a lot. Now, sure, we didn't get too much damage there, but a lot of shatters, so we just needed to aim a little bit higher. The Bourgogne has French battleship hull, so that's where you get turtleback-ish spaced armor for sure, and that's where we're going to do a lot of shatters. If we aim higher, though, yeah, there's like 26,000 damage, just like that, and he was pretty well angled to it. It's a lot, guys. It's a lot. Okay, what about rear turret? Is this a salvo? This might be the salvo. Rear turrets only available to us into a Vincent here. We're going to aim towards the back, as that's where he has superstructure, as well as hull that's rather exposed. 24,500 damage out of our rear turrets. 6 hits out of 8. That's pretty good. Now, I've been rather useless this game, certainly, by pushing to the back like this, but it shows you how good a camping Colombo can be now. You also still get a spotter plane, so for those opportunities where you are too far away and you can't use your guns, well, you do have a spotter up eventually. A little bit less damage there. He does angle into us, but it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. You're going to have to let me know in the comments below what you're thinking. Should we just be buffing some of the older ships' legendary upgrades so that they're actually just a buff to them? Or maybe these new ones are a little bit too good. We'll have to see when it comes to the Vermont, which I will hopefully take a look at in a little bit here later this week. Although this video comes out Thursday, so maybe tomorrow I'll take a look at it. I did play both of these ships this morning. Another 25k, my goodness. It's a lot of damage into angled ships, guys. You have to angle perfectly. If you're wondering, you have to go straight bow into these things. Otherwise, they're going to do massive damage to you. Or play a German battleship. This is my one plug, I guess, or benefit to German battleship armor. You actually will shatter the SAP on your hull. So the Colombo is forced to shoot your superstructure, which still takes a lot of damage, to be fair. But you're not going to be taking these 30, 40k slaps like some of these other ships are from the SAP shells, at least at closer ranges. But if you go broadside, well, Colombo's got decent AP still. Let's remember that Sicilia, generally an AP-focused ship, has the same AP that Colombo has. So now that this ship has 6% improved dispersion over that, well, maybe AP is a good option to use as well. Decent damage this game, but rather useless as a player. Didn't really help my team win in this one. So don't play like this, but it was a game that happened where I got a decent amount of salvos that I had to show you guys. Here we go. Des Moines broadside. Look at us swap. I'm assuming that he's actually going to turn away in time. So I swapped from the AP over to the SAP, and you're not penalized nearly as much for it. That's one of those things where whenever I'm playing an American ship, I'm trying to run Halsey or one of the Doe brothers, I guess. I mean, look at that damage, by the way. It's just... like, overmatched battleships can do that to a Des Moines. Like, you can do upwards of 30k like that into a Des Moines at these ranges from overmatched battleships. But it's not guaranteed. Certainly, you're going to get overpens in those salvos. Here, though, it's just straight full pens. Like, you're not going to get a Citadel into a Des Moines there, but full pens guaranteed when you hit. It's a bit much. Okay, long range, 20 kilometers. Oh, that's just another 17k into the Siegfried. See, and Colombo was always capable of this. This is one of the things about Colombo that I didn't enjoy it quite as much, I guess, is because this is the upper limit of RNG, I would suppose, where this ship is capable of these salvos, but it would never do it consistently, and that was the balancing point, at least so I thought. Now it's starting to do it consistently. SAP into broadside Bismarck. Here you go. Look at how little we do. 6,500, just like that. Sure, we only hit 6 shells, but it goes to show you do need to swap over to the AP whenever you're dealing with a German battleship, or a Russian one. I believe they can also do that. The best feature of SAP, though, is that you can full pen submarines. This is the one thing where I cannot believe Wargaming did this. They allowed SAP from battleships to full pen subs. It is glorious. You can't full pen destroyers with your SAP, though. So you're only going to do the overpens worth of damage. So you don't even have the option to swap to HE like a lot of people like to recommend battleships do against destroyers. Personally, I don't see that as much of a downside, though, since I often am just shooting AP into destroyers. Since anytime you're hitting the upper sections of the ship, anytime they're angled, you're going to be hitting modules and doing 0 with HE a lot of the time, at least for that shell. The HE shells need to hit the hull particularly to do good damage. So for us to have only overpens worth of damage, that's fine. The only downside is when people are at close range. That's when I really like to swap to HE in battleships at closer ranges, like sub 10 kilometers for sure, and their broadside. That's when the HE I find to do really good damage out of battleships into destroyers. There you go. Broadside Preußen, we know to swap to the AP this time, and we do a decent salvo, 20k. Nowhere near the best you could see against German battleships, certainly. Montana, Vermont in particular, able to do upwards of 40k when they're broadside. But Colombo being able to do 30k on a good salvo, maybe upwards of 35, 40k to a ship that's angled, right? That seems like a bit much to me. This has only been the first morning of the update, though, so I'm definitely going to have some more games this patch with these ships, and we'll see how it goes, man. I am being a little bit aggressive with this build. It certainly could be a little bit tankier if I wanted to push in a little bit more. But with Sansonetti here, we can run improved gun feeder, which gives us that 60% main battery shell switching time. Remember, we also have the improved main battery shell switching time without Sansonetti. So if I send Sansonetti to reserve here, we still have a 24.3 second shell swap time. On any other battleship, when you're not taking that expert loader, it's just your shell reload. It just resets your reload. But on the Italian battleships, specifically the tech tree ones, some of the premiums have it, I think. Some of them don't. You do get this improved shell switching time. Certainly on the tech tree battleships, you do get this. And when you run Sansonetti with that improvement as well, that's where you get that 9.7 second shell swap time as a minimum. So anytime you're reloading and you're at like 15 or even 10 seconds left on your reload, you can swap between your AP and your SAP with no consequence. Very powerful on a ship like this, especially with this improved dispersion. There's going to be a lot more times where you are going to swap to your AP from your SAP when someone goes broadside, because the improved accuracy allows you to just go for citadels, when otherwise you might have thought, I don't trust the dispersion, let me guarantee the insane SAP salvo into someone. Here we're getting our 5th heal from improved repair party readiness, and then going conceal fire prevention, and then furious to try and make up a little bit of the reload penalty here that we have. So 34.8 seconds, a little bit worse with the legendary upgrade, which looks like this, by the way. 6% to both main battery reload and shell dispersion. So that stacks with this 7% here. So a very, very big upgrade to your accuracy. Well worth it over even reload mod here. 13% penalty to your turret traverse when you take reload mod as well. Range mod could be nice for some of those more passive games, certainly. But, I mean, these salvos are just so impactful. They do so much damage, man. It's a lot. It is just a lot. Now let's take a look quick here. 7% dispersion on Yamato with a 13% penalty to turret traverse speed on already the slowest turrets in the game, I think. And you don't get the reload buff either. So, I mean, it's just a newer legendary upgrade. Of course it's way more powerful and just a buff to the ship, right? I understand that power creep is kind of a necessary evil, I guess we could say, of a live service game that's been around for nearly 10 years, but this seems like a lot. It seems like a lot. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.